Call the meeting in order. Roll call of Alderman.
Heisler. Kinsella. Meyer. Holt. Anderson. Rudowitz. Carpenter. Hart. Stillsby. Hayden. Seibert. Martinson. Elmore. Schneider. Musgrove. Arlett.
The Alderman present. Roll call of department heads.
Police Chief Clay. Fire Chief Langston. Mike Flynn. Ken Vaughn. Maurice Carlisle. Jamie Matrix. Tim Gregowitz. Jim Schneider. Yes. Leander Spearman. Emily Foltz. Chuck Schaefer. Bob Sable.
Well, he was supposed to be here. Is Clay out in the audience? Okay. So then, I know they told me. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, at this time, if everyone please stand and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good evening. Welcome to the City Council meeting for February 19th. We will start out this evening with public participation. If you would like to address the City Council, after I recognize you, step up to the microphone. Please give your name and address, and try to keep your comments to about 2 to 3 minutes. We have a pretty large crowd and quite a bit to go over tonight on the agenda. So I'll start it now. Whoever would like to be first, raise your hand and I'll start recognizing you. Yes, sir.
Michael Hagbert, 701 Centerville Ave. The city currently charges $65 for home inspection. Here, a city employee travels to your home and does a walkthrough inspection. I'm in favor of these safety inspections as they directly related to the health and well-being of the citizens. I want to be very clear. I've heard no member of this council voice any interest in doing away with these safety inspections. Furthermore, I feel a $65 fee is fair for the amount of work performed by the city and the benefit to the citizens. Upon a successful home inspection, citizens must obtain an occupancy permit. To obtain an occupancy permit, the citizens must themselves travel to the housing department, present their home inspection paperwork, and then they are allowed to fill out a postcard. The city employee takes this postcard, enters a name and address in the computer, prints a receipt. The citizen is charged $50 for the effort it takes to enter their name and address in the computer. I classify this as a money grab. I'm in favor of eliminating the occupancy permit altogether and allowing the home inspection receipt to serve as proof that the home is safe and the occupants will be allowed to move in. Tonight's agenda has item 16B, which the mayor will address TIF 16 issues. As I will be unable to respond during that portion of the meeting, I would like to state that none of my previous comments pertaining to the approval of business agreements or the amendments that were discussed at the mayor, amendments were directed at the mayor. Alderman Kinsella is absolutely correct when he stated that the mayor does not approve these deals. It's the sitting council members who decided to spend taxpayers' money in such a manner. Although not directly addressed at me, I feel the mayor's comments about grandstanding were unfairly directed at me. It's well known that I raised a question of oversight when I learned the Market Fresh Pizza agreement and knew that they had ceased business. The next logical step was to review other business agreements to verify their compliance. I believe the mayor knew of the request for this information, and if he didn't know at the time the FOIA was requested, he surely would have been notified, but there was no documented proof of compliance in the files. The mayor could very well accuse me of nitpicking or being on a witch hunt if a review of 40 agreements had shown that 49 companies were in compliance and I happened to stumble upon the one and only company not verified. Sadly, this is not the case. The completed FOIA request, the city was unable to show that they had requested and received documented proof that even one company was in compliance. This is not to say that a majority of the companies are not in compliance, only that the city never verified compliance. Now that we've discovered the problem, let's address the solution. The mayor stated the department is short-staffed, and after 2 employees left. I question why people were not hired to fill these positions. The money must have been in the budget during that year that they left, and whereas nobody has suggested that budget cuts affect personnel levels, the money should be in next year's budget. If you're having a problem finding qualified people to fill the position, I suggest you call Mr. Griffin. I'm sure he can contact a few well-qualified individuals to come down to HR for the interviews. Okay.
Anyone else this evening? Yes, ma'am. Okay, Mr. Brown, she yields to you.
Yeah, Rick Brown, 618 South Pennsylvania Avenue, Belleville, Illinois. This new ordinance that you've got, that you're going to be voting on tonight, it isn't a safety ordinance at all. I don't think there's a landlord or property manager around that's against the inspections to make sure that the dwelling is safe. Okay? This ordinance is being clarified because of 2 things. Because one, I called the mayor and the city attorney a liar when they were issuing and reissuing memos to the police department. And because Judge Katz had said that the ordinance in hand was vague. And it's written right in here tonight. Now look, all you aldermen out here, you're going to be the people that are going to vote on this. Every one of you, especially you good government party people, you took an oath to uphold the Constitution of the United States. And we have a 4th Amendment to unreasonable searches and people's right to privacy. Now, when somebody like Mr. Hagberg had gotten up last week and said, well, what happens if my elderly parent wants to come live with me? He was there before 1988 when the first ordinance was written. And the mayor and somebody else out here said, well, no, we're not going to inspect your home. But we're going to have somebody come in and measure your bedrooms. That is an illegal and unconstitutional search. Just the measurement itself. Now, you know, we don't do that kind of stuff in this country. You know, the dwellings can be inspected when they're unoccupied, but it makes other problems too. The police chief here is going to have to determine when the officers go out to give tickets to people. Well, we had a first occupancy ordinance in 1988. There wasn't any occupancy limitations, and people didn't have to sign up to be on an occupancy permit. Not in there. 1996, they adopted the BOCA 1996 Property Maintenance Code, where there was a set of rules for occupancy limitations, which included bedrooms and living room, dining room area, the square footages to be combined for numbers of people that are allowed to live there. In 2006, the city adopted the 2006 International Property Maintenance Code, which the occupancy limitations are not spelled out because they can be, it needed to be subjective so that some people can have more people in a dwelling than other people can because they're cleaner. And that's the bottom line. Belleville chose to take half of the square footage requirements or less out of the 1996 code and put it into the 2006 code. So even less people can live in a dwelling. Now, none of us are against the inspections. We want places to be safe. But this amendment tonight is about privacy. It is about unlawful searches of a dwelling. You all took oaths. If you vote for this thing tonight, this is going to allow people's dwellings to be searched in an unreasonable manner, and it's going to make people give the city information, their name, their date of birth, whether they're on Section 8 housing or not. enough information that someone in the city can get a credit card issued. And that will be available to anybody here at the city and the police department. If the police department has probable cause, they can go out and they can get a search warrant to search somebody's dwelling, or they can find out the information they need if they need to do a criminal background check. This is not the way to do it. This is unconstitutional. Thank you.
My name is Rose Wilson, 322 West I Street, and I totally and completely disagree with Mr. Brown. The occupancy permit has been the savior of the Franklin neighborhood. Without it, the Franklin neighborhood is now considered a model in many places, would not be there without it. Mr. Brown, sounds like Belleville is the only city that has this rule, when in fact the rule was adopted, I believe, from Crystal City many years ago, and adjusted therefore accordingly from what some of my research told me, Crystal City, Missouri. And there's many other cities in the United States that have these kind of rules and regulations. In Belleville, also, he appealed to you guys to do your job. I appeal to you to serve and protect all of the citizens. One of our candidates for mayor, I believe it's Mr. Hayden, is running on fighting crime in Belleville. How are you going to do this if you take out the tools for the administration and for the police department? In my neighborhood, I don't care how they measured it. All I know is 2-bedroom houses that were supposed to be for 4 people were occupied with 20. And it was awful. Gunshots was a way to hear gunshots was a way to go to bed at night, and to hear gunshots was a way to get up in the morning. Drug deals were rampant. You could not let your kids outside. I had a car stolen, a motor stolen, a car broken into, a motorhome broken into, my property broken into. I can't tell you how many times. And people were really tired of that, let alone the drug transaction. We've already made a sacrifice in the ordinance in regards to our use. I hear every day that people are afraid of the youth roaming down the streets. But we watered down that ordinance somewhat because one of the aldermen put the rights of homeschool children before the rights of all of the citizens of Belleville. So I'm all in support for it. I know I stand here and people know that I have known you for a long time, and no, I do not do this mayor's bidding. As a matter of fact, I have given him quite a bit of heartburn in conversations on disagreements, and I'm sure I'm responsible for some of his gray hairs on his head at times because we don't agree. But for the majority of time, I don't do it here in a public forum because it's better served when you sit face to face up at City Hall, and I don't do it for the newspaper effect. So I'm all in favor of keeping the ordinance the way it is because it works, and we need to give our police officers the tools to make it work. Thank you.
Thank you. Who else? Mr. Griffin.
Mayor, Alderman, audience, greetings and salutations. My name is Lee Griffin. I live at 305 North Charles Street in Belleville. My position is still the same. I think this is a lot to do about nothing. I think we have an effective police force. I don't think we need to infringe on the people's rights. I respect this young lady's opinion. I respect Mr. Brown's opinion. However, when you go into this ordinance and you keep on tampering with it, we're going to be prisoners in our own home pretty soon. True enough, we have crime, but crime is due to drugs. You know, you got crack cocaine, you got heroin, you got young kids strung out, If we're serious about fighting crime, we need to try to resolve crime. We're implementing some programs and some money that's going to get these people off of these drugs. But to keep on passing these laws, we're going to jump out of the skillet into the fire. I know everybody's got a real concern about crime, but let's not play the boogeyman game here. This is infringements on our constitutional rights. Now we're saying that in this ordinance, chapter 33-218, a permit of occupancy shall not be required for visitors to a dwelling unit. It should be the burden of the owner and the tenant to establish that an individual is a visitor and not residing in said dwelling unit. That's an unfair burden upon us taxpayers. Why should we have to come before officers and let them tell them who's living in our house, differentiate between a visitor, a relative, etc.? That's going to be challenged, Mayor. This is not the way about this thing. I've asked you guys time and time again to stop making a nuisance out of this city by doing all this stuff that's nonsensical. We need to table all this stuff, really take a look at it, and if we really want to get to the point and validate what we're trying to do, we need to come together and we need to represent the whole community. We have a third African Americans up here now. There's nobody in housing of color. You got 7 inspectors, probably about 7 or 8 part-time inspectors. You don't even have a black paper pusher over here. Belleville now has a history of not hiring minorities. When that consent decree came down in 1993, and I'll give you a chance to respond, we were required to hire at least 28. I don't even think we have 24 now, but the population has increased. I had officers come to my business, come to my tenants, when these articles came out where I had beat 5 of these occupancy tickets, because the judge herself said it was vague, it was unclear, and she was this close to saying it was unconstitutional. When that article came out, June the 21st, these same officers over there, what I call the good old boy club, all in housing, all Caucasians, came and wrote me about 20 tickets. When I had a meeting with you back in November, I filed complaints against these officers for knocking holes in my doors. And I told you then, I don't sell drugs. I'm a hard businessman. I'm a hard-working businessman. I treat people like I want to be treated. I've never met a person I did not like. But this is ridiculous, Mayor. I know we have qualified African Americans, inspectors, electricians. When you go over there, they treat people like third-class citizens over in that housing department. My appeal to you fell on deaf ears. And I'm trying to be a voice of reasoning for everybody here. I know the frustrations of the African American community, but it's not just a black thing. Crime happens from all different colors. We want to resolve crime, but how can you constantly pass this stuff and you have no African American inspectors since Henry Johnson over there? You don't even have an African American paper pusher. You know, we need to work together here. We need to table this thing because it's going to be all on the news and it's going to be one-sided. When it comes to certain individuals, they're going to give you a free ride. But when it comes to Lee Griffin, they're going to write me up. I have 10 tickets pending right now. I got the Equal Housing Opportunity Commission fighting these tickets in court because they feel as though it's unconstitutional. ACLU said it in the newspaper in that article, when that article came out, who's living where. This is a facade. What's the real motivation behind this? Rick Brown seems to think it might be racially motivated. But I didn't step out that far. But when my kids go into housing and I go into housing, and housing officers come out and harass my tenants and tell them for no reason other than they don't like me and it's a personal vendetta, don't rent from Griffin, then we got a problem. And then when I come to you and I call upon my alderman and waste her time and have a meeting and ask you, Mayor, how long do they have to write us a ticket? And I hear 18 months. Where's the due process in that? You got a right to a speedy trial in 120 days, but we're hearing back in the law, which is draconian, that they got 18 months to write us an occupancy ticket. So therefore, if somebody don't like you, they can stockpile tickets on you and keep you in court on this stuff. This is ridiculous. So if we want to be fair here to everybody, you know, let's work together. We don't have no swimming pool for the kids. Homeless people, we have to put them out of our house. They can't stay. I've had homeless people come to my house on a Friday and say, hey, I need a place to stay. And Monday, people came kicking my doors and officers. And I told you, Mayor, you can go look at my house, 214 on 13th Street. There's holes, not literally holes, but I have a metal door where they knocked holes in my door like I'm a drug dealer. I worked hard. I talked to you about this. I talked to my alderman, Melinda Holt, and I asked for some resolution. And you know what Clay told me? He said, Lee, I'm busy. But it's been 4 months, and I haven't got a decision. So if these officers continue writing tickets, and when they transgress, if it takes us 5 or 6 months to get an answer, that's not due process, and they're still out here doing this thing. So I'm asking you guys again, I know it's an election year, we're trying to do things the right way, but this situation here is not the way to go. I thank you for your time and your attention, and again, I wish you all the best in all your endeavors, both privately and professionally. But you got to be concerned about all the people, because we're all God's children. Thank you.
Before we go on, everyone's getting a little longer. We just got to try to keep them to around 3 minutes, okay? We're going to have a lot of, if everybody wants to speak, it's going to be long public participation. Who would like to go next? Mr. Reichert?
Good evening. My name is John Reichert. I own an office at 1912 North Bell East in Belleville. I have currently bought and renovated one property at 929 Kernan in Belleville, and then I sold that property. When I went to sell this property, well, that was a successful property I sold. I've also been working with my partner, and we have several other properties. In our lease that we utilize when we go to rent to our tenants, we want to know exactly who is going to be living in this home. We also ask and want to know the history of the people living in this home, because we don't want to run into any problems. If people that live in the home, if we are renting to 3 individuals and 6 people are then living there, we don't want that. We want a manageable situation in our properties. I think that the council is doing the right thing in taking a look at this new housing ordinance. I also know that my daughter just moved into Fairview Heights. And when my daughter moved into Fairview Heights, she had to give her name, and she had to notify the city that she was moving in to Longacre Ponds. So all I can think of is that, why I don't understand why we don't want to know who's living in our community. And I also think we all need to take care of our community. And I'm in favor of your ordinance.
Thank you. Anyone else this evening like to speak? Mrs. McHugh.
I know I'm going to be short for this. I'm going to read because I'm just not as good as the rest of the people. I'm 82 years old, so I don't do so good anymore. So it's something a little bit different that is bothering me right now. I've got part 1 and 2, and I'll make them short. Nobody's perfect.
Please, Mary,
What's
please
your address?
give your name.
Oh,
please.
I'm sorry. Mary McHugh, 10503 West Main in Belleville. Nobody's perfect. Every one of us needs to spend time daily striving to reach that goal. That's part of the reason that Belleville received the All-American City Award. The basic initiative, Belleville Achieve Strength and Character, was founded to help us perfect our character. With good character of our citizens, especially our leaders, if we don't have that, all is lost. The City of Belleville has embraced the word of the month to help the grown-ups to perfect their character. I know of no other city that has this, but they have children who do practice it. I have heard so many times from our mayor say, all people, I'm talking about all people, can come to Belleville, Illinois if they have good character. Have you not heard that? We don't leave anyone out here. I belong to racial harmony. We work every day on it. Yet, there are those among us who call our leaders Nazis and racists. Currently, we have council members who want to replace the mayor and other different positions here. That's okay. Let the best man win. However, it is unfortunate that radio station 1190 AM Insane Radio, run by the Grim Reaper, Bob Romantic, is being used for their candidates to further their cause to be elected. If you have heard these broadcasts from the Grim Reaper, did you think good character had gone right out the window and said bye-bye? Sure did. Part 2. Belleville was named a beautiful city by our forefathers and our foremothers. Beautification has always been important here. Mayor Eckert is extremely diligent in that arena. Now, some people might think it's silly to destroy a building to make a green space. I'm naming the building at 157 and West Main Street there at the intersection. I know this building is my neighbor. Well-meaning people complain lots of times when they don't have the right message, they don't have total understanding. Someone wanted a homeless shelter there. That's not right. It's not fit for a homeless shelter. I am on the homeless shelter committee. We're working hard, and it's not big enough. It's not the place that you want it to be. It's just not the place. I live where I've been for 55 years, and I would like to continue there. But now, I hear the gunshots. I hear the loud talking. I see the trash. I see the urination. The building needs to go. My son, many years ago, picked out pennies, $36 worth, and went to that building and bought himself a bicycle. That building means a lot to me, but it needs to go now. So, here's an example. You know, there's a lot of research. Here's some research. There's a lot of research about people acting like their surroundings. And we have some information here that tells about the research. We're talking about the Signal Hill wall. You know, it was decorated by Artemis Square and the kids at Signal Hill. This hasn't been touched one time, and I thank God that it doesn't happen tonight. But there is foot walking night and day there, and it hasn't been touched. But before that, we painted that wall almost every Saturday night. It had graffiti on it. It was awful. It had to be painted all the time. So I do believe that it does matter what your surroundings are like, and Belleville deserves that pretty place at the opening of the West End. I thank you, and Mayor, I think you got it right.
Thank you. Who else? The gentleman in the back standing up first of all, then we'll work our way, okay?
How you doing tonight? My name is Kevin Peels. I stay at 25 South 35th Street. I think it's Ward 3. I'm not sure about the ward thing. But I just wanted to read a piece of paper, a piece of literature that I had to come across from the Belleville Historical Society about Turner Hall being a building as a community asset. And this was written in 1925. It says, just as the home is appreciated as a place in which to bind closer through love and association, that relationship existing between members of a family, so should your hometown have a place where it can bring together in a spirit of friendliness and cooperation those who reside in its limits. This is the Turners have done in opening to the people of Belleville and their guests the doors of that marvelous recreation center, the new Turner building. Recreation is a tonic that nature prescribes to mankind. Wholesome recreation is essential to the health and happiness of men, women, and children. Physical education in this kind of recreation that is most beneficial to the individual. It builds up the body in a strong, energetic machine. It preserves health and equips the individual for battles with daily comfort him in fight for a livelihood. The new Turner Hall makes the body building recreation possible and available for Belleville's children and grown-ups and perform a service very real and worthwhile. As an asset to the community, its values extend far, even farther. This imposing structure becomes one of the show places of our city, provides an auditorium where Belleville organizations can entertain their visiting delegations, where societies can have their entertainment, where merchants can hold their commercial displays. Belleville has long needed just such a gathering place. The new Turner Building, with its atmosphere and service, fills this long-felt need. And I'd just like to say that this is what Turner Hall has always been about, being a community asset. And I just want to know, are we actually using this building as a community asset, or are we using it as a building to bring assets to the community? As you look around the neighborhood down here in Belleville, around this area, is mostly black. The schools reflect this. To show the poverty level at Jefferson School is over 50% of the kids are having free lunch and only 9% are reduced. This means those kids are poor. Those kids have no place to go. So when you see these kids running around the neighborhoods, they have nowhere to go. They have no outlet to engage in healthy and life practices. The YMCA is right there, but it costs money to go into the YMCA. These kids are lost out here, and instead of giving them something to gather around, we're just throwing them out to the wolves and sending them to die. Fact.
I'm Ralph Yobi, and I reside at 8521 West Main Street. Good evening, everyone. Mr. Mayor. 3 years ago, I went ahead and put my home up for sale. And my home is 91 years old, but it's in very good condition, I thought. But I had the people from the housing who came in to look at it and said it wasn't as good as it should be. And I had to spend quite a bit of money in order to get it to the point where it needed to be, meaning I had to put in a brand new electrical box. The one I had worked well, but it didn't meet code today. Without occupancy permits, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to revert to redlining. Does everybody know what that term is? It means that we are in awe of basically becoming a slum, decadent society. I don't want to see that happen here in Belleville. I don't want to go anywhere. I left East St. Louis as a child. My father came up here and bought a home. He sold his home to Eddie Ciron for $3,500. He didn't buy one up here for that. But yet if I go ahead now and try to sell my home, if you don't have the occupancy permit, you will not have quality housing. So ladies and gentlemen, think about that when you vote tonight. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Joy Schreiber, 27 South 10th Street, and I don't think anyone in this room is against inspections of the homes. Electrical boxes have to do with the inspections. The occupancy permit is something completely 100% independent of the inspections. I've got a rental property that the backyard kind of butts up to mine, and in the time that I've been in my home, there's been 5 different tenants there. The least disturbing of all had probably 12 people in the house. The home is probably approved for 6 by the number of the bedrooms. Those residents that rented from there that were within compliance with occupancy were foul-mouthed, they were loud, there was traffic all day, all night, but they were within compliance of the occupancy permit. The people that didn't bother me a stitch were not in compliance, but I was not about to report them. They were my best neighbors. These occupancy permits really do violate constitutional rights. We would have to allow an illegal search of our home in order for a bedroom to be measured so that an elderly parent or someone move in with us. I don't see that we should be even looking at this. You know, I'm totally against the occupancy permit as it is, and crime-free housing doesn't depend upon it because it's not The occupancy that offends us is the crimes that occur, and we have laws against those crimes. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Good evening, my name is Paul Bergman. I live at 23 North 40th Street. This is my first meeting I've been to, and I think a lot of things that need to be addressed is the behavior of people. It's not the residents, it's the people and the behavior. Those need to be enforced. If you're having problems with the people, it's not how many people are doing it, it's the behavior. How is the behavior? If we've got guns shooting off, we have one of the worst problems right here in this country is that a concealed carry. People aren't even allowed to conceal carry to protect their homes and their families. The people that are shooting the guns, if they're doing it illegally, again, it's the behavior, it's not the law-abiding citizen. We talked about citizens of good character. The mayor having people come in this city. Well, if they're good character, in a housing situation where it's safe, if it's only safe for 4 people to live there, then why are they allowed to have a guest? If it's safe to be there, they should allow people to come there. We had another person talk about where we have for kids to go to and things of that sort. Well, we have parks. We have the world's greatest entertainment. It's called the library. People could get together and go to the library and learn something and use it in our heads. We could raise money. We had this, I was not here, but with $200,000 for TIF, that could buy more police officers. The alderman's fee. How many are you doing it for the money or doing it for the service? We have 2 secretaries. These money, why aren't we cutting back on that? Why do we need to have all these other things? Take the money and use it for police officers. Enforce the policies. Thank you.
Anyone else this evening? Yes, sir.
Good evening. My name is John Steinwaggy. I got a little bit of a sore throat, so I apologize. 907 West Main Street, Belleville, Illinois. The main reason I came here is because it says Belleville will vote on occupancy rules. Now, as a manager of some apartments, I would like to say that our company is also interested and has contracts out for 20 more apartments. So we are very interested that you make the rules as tough as you can possibly be, but still be constitutionally right. Because the only way you get good housing in any town, Belleville, Collinsville, Fairview High School, whatever, is to make sure the housing is good to begin with, and this is why you need the inspections. Now, as far as the occupancy permits go, it's a fundraiser, which is true. However, if the people who are renting these apartments feel that strongly about it, then put on another $10 a month. If you're renting something for $400 a month, make it $410. If the person can't afford $400, he sure as hell can't afford $10. So it really doesn't make any difference to $10. But the main thing is I think Belleville is becoming anti-business. Now we hear all this about TIF money. I'll be the first one to admit, I don't understand it. I do part, but not always. And I'm sure that there's a lot of people here that don't understand the complete thing about TIF. And what I want to refer to here is in the News Democrat, which makes sense. It says it's better for the city to put $210 in tax increment financing funds and then to have the building sit vacant. We're talking about the building that Mr. Archinger wants to do. Now that building has been vacant for X number of years. it's in bad shape, and he wants to put his money in it, and plus the $210,000 from the city. Now it's going to cost the city $500,000 if someday the roof caves in and they got to tear the building down. Now it doesn't make any sense. There was an alderman here the other night, he kept harping on Mr. Ardinger about a 10-year, 20-year buyback. And if the man couldn't see that Mr. Ardinger's neck was standing up on the back of his neck, he was trying to be pushed into something that he didn't want to do. Now, the 10-year, 20-year buyback, as somebody here recommended, that the attorney should work that out. Let him work it out. You know, you aldermen think you know a lot about the law, you think you know a lot about everything. You don't know shit. But I mean, neither do I, but I'll be the first one to admit it. Now, somebody wrote a letter, I think it's Ilya, here's his name, Mr. Hayden. Okay. Mr. Hayden wrote this letter last Sunday after last Wednesday's meeting. And it says, in 2009, a car dealership property had an assessed value of nearly $1.4 million and paid more than $111,000 in property taxes, of which 50% was returned to the dealership as part of a business agreement. The remaining $56,000 went into TIF 16. Now, what dealership are you talking about, Mr. Hayden?
You can answer.
I'm listening.
I was talking about the Wagner Buick, sir.
Oh, okay. I was just wanting to know because then in the next paragraph, you put that the 2011 assessed value of the dealership dropped by 38% to $811, giving a tax bill of only $69,000, a $42,000 reduction. Why was it reduced? Do you know?
That was the question I asked him there.
That's the question you answered then, then why do you put it in the paper? This is a very misleading thing.
No,
the
sir.
reason...
No, sir. The point, he's asked me a question, Mayor, and
He asked you one question.
He asked me why did I put it in the paper. He's not going to accuse me.
I didn't ask you why you put it in the paper. I asked you about the facts on this. I asked you where you got your information and how was it reduced and why was it reduced. Now, do you know or don't you know?
It was reduced by the county.
Why? You don't know, do you?
Benefit Wagner. It doesn't benefit Wagner.
No, you know why it was reduced, see? Like I said, we all know nothing about nothing. But I checked it out. It was reduced because Regent Bank, who had the mortgage on the Wagner property, when Wagner lost their dealership, the part of their problem was they had no money coming in. Regent's Bank went to the county and had the property reappraised. And when it was reappraised, this is how it turned out. Now, it wasn't Wagner, and it wasn't because of Rusty Wagner. It was because of Regent's Bank. But those are the facts. But in here, you don't even tell who the dealership is. You don't tell them a damn thing.
The point of the article, sir, was to point out that the TIF 16, which is to raise property values, is...
The whole thing of the article is very misleading, Mr. Hayden, and I don't want to be disrespectful. The remaining $56,000 went in the TF 16. This is what you wrote in here, right? TF 16 has nothing to do with Wagner Buick.
Those two. It does. Okay.
Is that true or not true?
It's sitting there, sir. Okay, hold it. Okay. Mr. Steinlage, I am going to address this at the end of the meeting. I am going to address some of the misaccuracies of the statements the other night. I have the facts. You're exactly right about Regent's Bank, and I will explain it all at the end of the meeting tonight, okay?
Fine.
Thank you very much.
Can I say one more thing?
What was the address again?
Can I say one more thing?
Sure.
The gentleman here the other night, you know, we had the deal about the police and the teaming up with the county. Remember?
Yeah, that the mayor wants to spend $250,000.
And you don't want to do it. You don't want to change.
And he wants to have software. Go ahead.
Okay. I talked to somebody in the police department, and they said that that software and teaming up with the county. So if they're here and county's there and they got a problem there, the county can get to it faster, right? They also said that it would save per officer anywhere from 2 to 4 hours per week on paperwork, etc., etc. If I'm correct, you have 81 officers. 81 officers times, let's take it 2 hours a week. That's 162 hours. If you have an officer, that's equivalent to 4 officers' time. So, you know, I don't understand. Somebody said, where are you going tonight? And I said, I'm going to Silly Hall. And they said, where's Silly Hall? I said, that's what happens here when all these people get together and they have an argument instead of working together for Belleville. Good night.
What was the address that he gave his residence for the record?
I didn't give a residence.
He gave a residence. He gave his address for his business.
900 block Main Street.
Everybody else, Your Honor, is asking. Mr. Steinlage, for the record, would you give your
He
home
lives in
address?
Millstadt.
Where?
Your home
You live in
address.
Millstadt. My name is Dallas Cook, and I reside at 24 Lakeshore Drive. And first of all, I'm really disappointed and disturbed that a man from Millstadt was just able to ask a council member questions, when you, Mayor, have been asked many questions many times and never given any answers to the people. And so you want to talk about silly? This is silly. What a waste of time when we have much more important things to worry about. Secondly, as far as this occupancy ordinance is concerned, you guys are going to have to decide what you think is good for the city. If you think it's good, vote for it. If you don't, don't. That's for you to decide. But what is not for you to decide is the way that we, the citizens, get to think. Victoria Wygant, Alderman candidate of Ward 7, recently stated that if you don't like the good government party's policies and laws, then get out of the city. Well, you know what? I have news for you. People are not getting out of the city. They're going to the polls. The day is April 9th, and I hope everybody votes. Because this one-party rule, this one-party control, I know a lot of you on here, and I think some of you guys are really nice. I think you're some really smart people. But I think you're being led in the wrong direction. I think it's time for a change here. I think it's time that we have more citizens' opinions. I think it's time that we work with people like Mr. Griffin to come together as citizens, because the color of your skin does not determine whether or not you commit crimes. It's your opportunity. These people don't have opportunity. You think somebody wants to live in a home with 10 people? No, that's not a good way to live. It's because they don't have money. They don't have a job. They were not properly educated. They did not get the same opportunity that I did. So I'm going to do everything I can to give them that opportunity again and bring us together again as a city so we can stop the real silliness.
Is there anyone else? Mr. Ward.
Last but not least.
No, you're not last. There's one more.
One more, okay. Go on. My name is Robert White, 2419 Pro Tour Drive, Belleville. I'm not going to get into about political arguments about what's going on. I think it's maybe gotten a little bit out of hand tonight. That's only my opinion. Like we live in the United States, we can express our opinions without fear of being told to go somewhere else or put in jail or anything. My comment is only on the occupancy permit, and I would differentiate it in one way. We are talking about the occupancy permits and combining those with a business deal of renting property. My concern is with an occupancy permit for my home, which I purchased. I really find it bad that somebody is telling me how many people they're going to permit me to live in my house, how many people can visit me and when, and the names of the people that come in there. I'm a 27-year veteran of the military. I find it offensive that I have to give you this information. I can understand the safety inspections. That's probably a necessity. I don't have any objection to that. And when it comes to rental properties, you're talking about something else. You're talking about a business transaction where one individual owns the property and he's letting someone else live in it, and he's concerned about protecting his property. That I can understand needs more regulation. But I can't find the words to express how upset I am that someone can tell me who can live in my house and how long my relatives can stay there or whatever it has to do with my house. I mean, it's my house and it's not anybody's business. Thank you.
Well, good afternoon, Your Honor. Good afternoon.
Would you state for the record your name and address?
Dr. Curry, pastor of Conference Christian Center right down the street. and been in the Belleville area for the last 20 years, pastoring the church. And I'm just kind of shocked at what I'm hearing, the blatant disrespect, wanting something from the mayor and from the city council, but don't know how to show respect. The occupancy is an issue as long as it's done correctly and followed by the Constitution. You have to ask yourself the question, nobody knows if you're being held hostage in your own home. People don't know that information, so I think the first thing is that you need to gather and have some respect for the mayor, have some respect for the city council, have some respect for those that are in office. Now, some of you haven't been around for a while, and you probably don't really know how far this city has come. And we hear a lot of phraseologies as far as racism, Nazism, and all that stuff. Every city has its baggage. And as citizens, we can't just come in here and call ourselves trying to make somebody do something without having some real negotiation and some cooperation. Belleville has came a long way. I know I was here and I was a part of making that change. But in order to make real change, you have to learn how to respect those that you're wanting change from. You just can't call it a silly meeting and silly this and silly that. That's not respectful. Why would somebody want to respect you when you're calling them names? Why would somebody want to even agree with you when you're talking to them like they're kids? There must be a level of respect. In this city, we've had many meetings from racial harmony. We've had many meetings with myself, many meetings with Mayor Cook and mayors long before. And we worked things out. Was there some friction? Of course it was. Was there some heated arguments? Yes. But we worked it out. But to disrespect the office, and then at the same time want the office to do something for you, now that's what's silly. You have to decide that we're going to respect the office that we have here, respect the people that we have here. However they got in there, they're in there now, and we have to respect them to do a great job. Now, the issue that the young man brought up about young African-American males, I have a program called the ISH Project. Been running this since 1992. And we graduate young men from the ages of 12 through 18. They can come be a part of that program, so there's no such thing they ain't got nothing to do. They have to want to do it. And they have to seek it out. They have to want to do something better with their lives, and that's what we hear. So get with me afterwards and we can talk about it. So my main thing from what I'm hearing, and I'm just kind of shocked, I haven't, maybe I need to show up a little bit more often. I'm just kind of shocked about the blatant disrespect. Nobody owes you anything. And if you got 50 people in the place that's only supposed to have 5 or 6, yeah, the occupancy permit needs to be looked at. As long as they're not violating constitutional rights, what's the problem? As long as you're not trying to hide anything, what's the problem? As long as you're not slinging drugs and running guns, what's the problem? Privacy. But it must be respectful. You don't make change by saying silly things. You make change by compromising and by being patient and by talking to people with some dignity and respect. If you're going to make some change. Other than that, you're not getting change. I really don't need a hand clap either, because I'm just shocked by it, Mayor. I'll just be honest with you. I'm completely stunned that this was goes on in the city council meeting now. 1992, it wasn't going on that way, and we were dealing with some real racial issues. Real racial issues. What some of you are talking about now, the stuff has already been done. You just got to be patient and let stuff happen. We're dealing with real racial issues. So what I'm saying to you and saying to the city and the citizens, how about trying some respect? How about showing some dignity to the office? And how about setting up some meetings? And if you want to have a meeting, a citywide meeting, I'm always available let's get everybody together, let's shop talk, let's work through it and see what we can get done. I'm all up for that, but just to come out like this and talking to people like they're in the 2nd and 3rd grade, but yet you want somebody to do something for you, to me, that just doesn't make sense. So I wanted to just share that briefly and let you know, as far as I'm concerned, I'm in this city every day. I drive through the whole city. I see some things that the police officers need to be checking out. And they're crazy if they don't. I see some things that people need to have an extra eye on. They need to have a 3rd eye on them. Because people are getting killed. They're getting murdered, robbed. So when we start complaining, let's look at the real picture. Belleville is changing. And as Belleville changes, the law enforcement have to change with that. And if you come across like it's somebody picking on you, as long as you're obeying the law and no one is violating your Constitution, I believe the police officers and whomever else need to do their job and do it correctly. That's all I want to say, and on top of that, keep up the good work, Mayor. I think you're doing a great job. Police Chief, I think you're doing a great job. And the City Council, do what you have to do as far as the ordinance, but make sure when you do it, it's constitutional.
Blatant disrespect. How can you do that? I'd like to wrap this up. We've got about an hour.
Chief Sunday Court, Belleville, Illinois. John?
They ain't seen no racism.
I think, didn't he own that? Well, okay. Whenever I went there, if there wasn't a place to park, there was an arrow parking across the street. I didn't hear John say thank you for providing me with that parking lot. That's all I want to say.
Well, he has in the past, I can say that.
Not tonight.
Okay, well, okay. I'm going to close public participation so we can move on with the meeting. You had a chance, Kevin. Okay. This time I'm closing public participation, and that was a very, a lot of good expressions, and I do appreciate people's willingness to share their concerns. That's certainly gotten more and more all the time. This time, a couple weeks ago, we had a little miscommunication, but it doesn't take away from the seriousness, and I didn't get on the agenda tonight, but I'm going to use my position to add it. It's simply a reading of the proclamation. I had read this probably 2 meetings ago, and unfortunately, Mary Ann Reese couldn't be here that night, and Kelly from St. Elizabeth's, and they're right over here. Mary Ann is the head honcho, top person at St. Elizabeth's, Chief Executive Officer, and they're our neighbor downtown, and they're very concerned about the topic. I am going to read this proclamation. Some of you may not have been here, but I think for the few lines that we have, I think it's very important. And they're very proud because they've been making some strides in treating patients with heart conditions, and they have had some great success recently with being recognized as such. The proclamation reads as, whereas about 600,000 people die of heart disease in the U.S., and about 935,000 Americans have a heart attack each year. And whereas risk factors can be prevented or controlled, heart disease is still the leading cause of death for all Americans and accounts for $1 out of every $6 spent on health care. And whereas the City of Belleville and St. Elizabeth's Hospital supports the Million Hearts National Initiative launched by the Department of Health and Human Services, HHS, to prevent 1 million heart attacks and strokes by the year 2017. And whereas the residents of Belleville are encouraged to take the Million Hearts Pledge to prevent heart disease and stroke by understanding the risk, get up and get active by exercising for 30 minutes on most days of the week, know your ABCs, appropriate aspirin therapy, blood pressure control, cholesterol management, smoking, says, I guess that's not to smoke. Stay strong by eating a heart-healthy diet, and take control of your heart health by following your healthcare professionals' instructions for medication treatments. Now therefore, I, Mark W. Eckert, Mayor of the City of Belleville, Illinois, do hereby proclaim February 2013 as Heart to Heart Health Awareness Month. I urge all residents, schools, businesses, and civic leaders to take time to educate ourselves about the risk of heart disease and recognize the efforts of local healthcare professionals dedicated to prevention, early detection, and effective treatment, and consider what steps you and your family can take to promote and adopt a heart-healthy lifestyle. This was and is very important to read a second time. Everybody in this room either has experienced or knows someone who has experienced heart problems. It is everywhere. So Mary Ann, I appreciate you coming tonight and sitting here. Would you like to come up and say a word or so?
Sure.
It's that important. And tell us real quickly, Mary Ann, about your most recent recognition that the hospital did receive.
Thank you very much. The Hospital of St. Elizabeth received an award from Thomson Reuters for being a top 50 hospital out of 5,000 hospitals in the United States of America. Your hospital in Belleville is ranked number 50 in the United States. And that's all based on objective outcomes. So how we took care of patients in the hospital, what their mortality rate is, so are they expected to die or not expected to die. We're above, actually below the national average, way below. And they look at in-hospital mortality, they look at 30 days, 6 months, and then a year. They also look at complication rates, and they look at severity-adjusted complication rates, so how sick the patient was and should they have gotten a complication or not. They look at heart attack care, how fast do we get the patient to the cath lab, and they look at CHF, congestive heart failure, and chronic obstructive pulmonary disease. So I think you have a lot to be proud of. We're very proud of St. Elizabeth's as well. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you for coming tonight. Appreciate those words. And now back to the regular program. This time we will move to, we have no presentations tonight or appointments at this time. We'll go to the regular city council meeting minutes held February 4, 2013. What's your pleasure?
Your Honor, I'd like to make a motion to approve and file the minutes of the February 4th, 2013 meeting. So moved.
We have a motion by Alderman Heisler. Do I hear a second? Second by Alderman Kinsella. Do I hear any additions or corrections?
Yeah, I have something.
Okay.
I don't recall my question about the FOIA saying I was confused. I was asking why. And it was as simple as that. I want to start out confused.
Okay. What page is it on? Can you tell me? 10. Page 10, this is yours. Okay, so you have a problem with strike out the word confused? Okay, so we have a motion and a second. We have one amendment by Mr. Carpenter. Any additional corrections? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion to accept and file the minutes signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Claims, payroll, disbursements. What's your pleasure?
Yes, Your Honor, they have the claims, payroll, and disbursements be paid.
Motion by Alderman Anderson. Do I hear a second? Second by Alderman Meyer. Do I hear discussion? Roll call.
Heisler.
Aye.
Kinsella.
Aye.
Meyer. Holt. Anderson. Rudowitz. Carpenter. Hart. Sillsby. Hayden. Seibert. Martinson. Elmore. Schneider. Musgrove. Arlen.
Motion carries. Housing report of cash receipts for fiscal year 2012-13. What's your pleasure? Everybody at once. Move to accept and file? We have a motion by Alderman Schneider. We have a second by Alderman Kinsella to accept and file the housing reports as stated. Any questions? All in favor of accepting and filing these reports signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Alderman Anderson,
Yes, Your Honor, on behalf of the Master Sewer Committee, I have 4 motions. If there's no objections, I'd like to read them as it is.
Does anyone object if we read these 4 from Master Sewer? Proceed.
Number 1 is the motion to continue the oxide contract with Siemens Industries for Brook Hill subdivision in the amount of $18,656.25 per year. The motion to award the bid for critically silent 4-inch drive prime backup system for the reunion pump station to Plymouth Banner Engineering in the amount of $52,691. And a motion to approve the change order to Cordy Lujan Construction for the digester footing revision as part of the long-term control plan project in the amount of $215,450. Finally, the motion to enter into the compliance committee agreement with the Illinois Environmental Protection Agency and ISO.
Motion by Alderman Anderson, do I hear a second? Second by Alderman Hayden, do I hear a discussion on these 4 motions? Roll call.
Heisler.
Aye.
Kinsella.
Aye.
Meyer. Aye. Holt. Anderson.
Aye.
Rudowitz. Carpenter.
Aye.
Hart.
Aye.
Sillsby. Hayden.
Aye.
Seibert. Martinson. Elmore.
Aye.
Schneider. Musgrove. Arlen.
Motion's carried. Alderman Meyer.
Your Honor, on behalf of the Economic Development and Annexation Committee, I'd like to make a motion to approve the expansion of the Sod Improvement District Number 2. So moved.
A motion by Alderman Meyer, do I hear a second? Second by Alderman Seibert, do I hear any discussion? Roll call.
Heisler.
Aye.
Kinsella.
Aye.
Meyer.
Aye.
Holt.
Aye.
Anderson.
Aye.
Rudowitz. Carpenter. Hart.
Aye.
Sillsby. Hayden. Seibert. Martinson. Elmore. Schneider. Musgrove. Arlen.
Motion carries. Alderman Meyer?
Your Honor,
Okay, we'd like to ask the table this.
if you could table the motion.
But just so everyone knows, motion by Alderman Meyer, do I hear a second? Second by Alderman Sillsby. Mr. Ardinger called about an hour before the meeting, approximately a little before, and just asked that it be tabled. We're going to talk tomorrow, but he's still got more things to discuss and to attempt to work out. So ask at this time to table this for possibly 2 weeks. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
Would you clarify, when we left this at Finance Wednesday, it was my understanding the attorneys, his attorney, our attorney would probably be discussing more issues?
They are.
Okay, and so that's what we're waiting for them to come to an agreement?
That's, I think, the majority of it.
Okay. Do you suspect it will come back to committee or that it will come from the attorney's?
He'll come back here. As I explained before, his request, he's getting very concerned about, it's not our attorney's fault by any means. He was, well, I'm not going to go into it.
Well, honestly, there's only been 2 business days plus today since the finance.
If the timing is a problem, I'm not going to push it back to committee because timing is an issue for him. I told him today, if it is a real problem, I would consider a special meeting if that became a deal breaker.
Okay.
So I'm going to wait to hear from him tomorrow.
Okay. Can I request that we have it before we walk into the meeting? So
We're going to do everything we can, but I mean, like I said, as you indicated yourself, we had 2 business days since that finance meeting, and the attorneys just couldn't get all their stuff. And Mr. Ardinger, quite honestly, at first told me after the other day's meeting that he had to think for a day or so if he wanted to proceed. Okay? I mean, after that meeting, he just told me he had to, we had a long talk this weekend. So I'm hoping he still wants to proceed. But he felt, he just had to, he was kind of taken back, he said, at the last meeting. So, motion and a second to,
I have a question. All I have is a question. I didn't write down at the last meeting, the parking lot that he's going to be using for all of his employees. Which lot is that?
it's the lot immediately to the west of what is the Turner Gymnasium. There's approximately 20 stalls there, Emily. And it's the lot between the YMCA building and the Pet Catering building from enter on A Street, and it goes into our city lot right there.
The catering and the whatever.
It's between the YMCA and the catering building. It's right there. There's about 20 stalls that are part of the plat. We have a motion and a second to table. All in favor of the motion to table signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Alderman Seibert.
Yes, Your Honor, I have 3 motions that have all been approved by the committee. I'd like to have them voted on as one.
Okay, I would first of all ask that we would make a motion to table number 2. And the reason is, we must first have the public hearing before we can make a motion. We must listen to the public first. The public hearing could not be set for tonight's meeting because we didn't have enough days. So the public hearing will be set for March 4th, and it would also then, we would plan to put it on the agenda for March 4th, this motion to approve the vacation of the right-of-way. So do I hear a motion to table until March 4th? Motion by Alderman Seibert, do I hear a second? Second by Alderman Schneider. Do I hear any discussion regarding that explanation? All in favor of tabling the vacationing of the alley for Lindenwood dorms till March 4th, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Mr. Seibert, please proceed with the other two.
Motion to approve the installation of streetlights on Union Drive for a total of $4,250, and a motion to approve a streetlight at 3824 South Park Drive for $525. So moved.
Motion by Alderman Seibert. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Second by Alderman Rujewitz. Do I hear discussion? Yes, ma'am.
On the lights for Union Drive, up in the meeting, we made the motion to it, or added to it that they have to have the total first. Is this for one light, or all 3 of them that they're going to be putting in?
Mr. Gregowitz?
The motion is for the full installation. If that number is going to change, I'll have to bring that back to Streets and Grades. But 4250 is the most accurate.
4250 is the installation, the motion for everything is laid out here. And this would come out of TIF 10, is that correct, Jamie?
This is going to come out of the general fund for the
But there's installation of actual product, right?
Yes.
Is this not a TIF eligible expense?
The way I explained it in Streets and Grades, it was going to come out of the general fund.
Jamie, is that what we talked about?
I mean, you can pay installation of streetlights out of TIF, but if they want to do it out of the general fund, that's fine.
Well, I just caution because the general fund is always, I mean, at the moment, maybe we're not quite as ginger, but it's always something. So this is an acceptable, eligible cost, I'm almost positive. I would just like it to be known that if at all possible, we'll double check it, but if these lights can be installed with TIF 10's money, I do know for a fact, correct Jamie, that there is adequate money in TIF 10. So I would like to ask that we would use it from TIF 10. Who made the motion originally? Mr. Seibert? You made a second? Ridgewitz, do you two agree to that amendment? That we look at taking it from TIF 10? I just think it helps the general fund. Okay, we have a motion and we have a second. Yes, ma'am.
In addition, in committee, we also discussed that Mr. Gregowitz would make an effort to go back to the developer of this subdivision and seek to recoup our costs if possible. Because we thought this was something we probably should have installed in the beginning.
Original developer's not there anymore, is he? 2 of them are gone. Yeah, I don't think we're gonna, I mean, we've had this conversation before about other things, right, shortly after I became mayor 8 years ago. But they had pretty big turnover of developers out there. So my gut feeling is we're.
But you don't ask if you don't.
No, we will look into it, but I'm just, realistically, I'm very doubtful that there's a person responsible that's who's there now. We have a motion and we have a second. We're spending money, roll call.
Heisler.
Aye.
Kinsella.
Aye.
Meyer.
Aye.
Holt.
Aye.
Anderson.
Aye.
Rudowitz.
Aye.
Carpenter.
Aye.
Hart.
Aye.
Silsby. Hayden.
Aye.
Seibert.
Aye.
Martinson.
Aye.
Elmore.
Aye.
Schneider.
Aye.
Musgrove.
Aye.
Arlen.
Motion carries. This time I'd like to ask for a motion to approve, as in your packet, the sale of the properties owned. Sorry.
Got the 525. Did you put those together?
I thought we put 1 and 2, 3 together,
Okay.
didn't we?
All right.
That was the motion. 1 and 3 went together.
Okay.
I'm sorry, Mrs. Fields, I had it. And we did table number 2. Okay, I'm asking for a motion to approve the sale of properties owned by the city of Belleville. Now, these in your packet, ladies and gentlemen, this was approved by Health and Housing. The motion came from Health and Housing, correct, Mr. Kinsella, Alderman Kinsella? This is something we do every couple of years. I'm not going to say every year. We review excess property we have, and some of it has stipulations that we can't sell based on some of the conditions when we bought it. It was bought with flood buyout money and with green space, etc. So there's approximately what, Bob, approximately what, 10 of them?
Correct.
10, and they're in your packet, and this is just a motion for us to go ahead and advertise for sealed bids, and then they would come back to the Health and Housing Committee for review and consideration of acceptance, then pass on then to the council.
I'll make a motion
A little bit of how it works about the advertising.
Well, we have to advertise by law anytime we're going to sell something or enter into this type of agreement, and it'll be advertised, and people can, several people have already inquired about these properties. It might be a lot next door to them. In our ordinance, in our policy or ordinance, I have to go back, I know it's an actual, I don't remember if it's an ordinance or a policy, but we got it established that the council does have the right to decide. We don't want people buying these parcels or these properties as spite strips, you know, to get into a frictional situation. But most of them, in some cases, some of these folks have been taking care of the property and helping us out for years. And to put it back on the tax rolls and to have them continue to cut the grass and we don't have to do it, it's a good thing. So, you know, it'll be further explained as we get them and we may only have bids on a couple of them. There may be a lot of them that just go right back to Mrs. Fields' file because there's no one interested. That's what happened last time. So we'll probably get some action proposals on, I would say, at least half.
Can we talk about posting it on the property, posting the sign like we do for the zoning hearings?
We didn't, but I guess we could take those signs, I guess, Emily, and we could think about that.
I mean, the signs are right now are pre-printed and they say a zoning hearing will be had for this property, so we have to make one.
Yeah, we'd have to buy some signs, and I'm not saying we can't, but that's it's a reasonable thought for the future. We'll look into that. Remind me at staff meeting, Bob, to talk about that. We can look into it. Okay? Any other questions about go ahead and advertising these lots, these properties?
I'll make a motion for the sale, notice of the sale proposed, notice of the sale proposal for properties owned by the city.
We have a motion by Alderman Carpenter. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Alderman Ruggiewicz. Have discussion further? All in favor of the motion to advertise signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Street banner permit request from Belleville Hospitals and Golf and Tennis Classic Committee display their banner at the North Illinois Street entrance. What's your pleasure? Motion by Alderman Marr, do I hear a second? Second by Alderman Seibert, do I hear discussion? All in favor of approving that request coming from our Belleville hospitals signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. This next one in your packet, I'm asking for a motion to approve a parking lease agreement with First States Investors for the use of the parking lot at 222 East Main Street at no charge to the city. Several weeks ago, this company had their maintenance, or their company they have a maintenance agreement with, closed off the lot. And I immediately was getting many calls from downtown businesses because they've been using the lot quite a bit. And it is sorely missed, especially from the restaurants and bars at night, they really on the weekend. So it took me a little bit of time, but I managed to track them down and then had to get the attorneys talking together. And in nutshell, Mike, I think what we're doing is we would agree to clean the lot for our snow, our trash, and we're doing it now. We're not doing it, we haven't done snow yet, but we pick up the trash, on when our guys pick up the trash, and basically provide them with a hold harmless agreement. Keep it insured. And this keeps the lot, they'll open it back up, they'll make our businesses in Belleville Main Street and the Chamber very happy, until at such time that they would go to sell the property and you know, have to notify us that the property would be sold. The region was out of there last May. They left last May. Okay? Do I hear a motion? Motion by Alderman Silsby. Second by Alderman Heisler. Do I hear any discussion? Roll call.
Heisler.
Aye.
Kinsella.
Aye.
Meyer.
Aye.
Holt.
Aye.
Anderson.
Aye.
Rudowitz.
Aye.
Carpenter.
Aye.
Hart.
Aye.
Silsby.
Aye.
Hayden.
Aye.
Seibert.
Aye.
Martinson.
Aye.
Elmore.
Aye.
Schneider.
Aye.
Musgrove.
Aye.
Arlen.
Motion carries. We'll get on that quickly. Let's see, look down the line. This time Alderman Martinson.
Your Honor, on behalf of the Finance Committee, I move to accept the low bid of $29,850 from Midwest Sales Company for the purchase of pre-engineered pavilion, picnic tables, and trash receptacles at the south side of the park. So moved, Your Honor.
Motion by Alderman Martinson, do I hear a second? Second by Alderman Seibert, do I hear discussion? Roll call.
Heisler.
Aye.
Kinsella.
Aye.
Meyer. Aye. Holt. Aye. Anderson.
Aye.
Rudowitz.
Aye.
Carpenter.
Aye.
Hart.
Aye.
Silsby.
Aye.
Hayden.
Aye.
Seibert.
Aye.
Martinson.
Aye.
Elmore.
Aye.
Schneider.
Aye.
Musgrove.
Aye.
Arlen.
Motion carries. Alderman Martinson.
Your Honor, I move to notify St. Louis County that the city is open and receptive to move forward with obtaining Iberian records management system in conjunction with the county. So moved, Your Honor.
Second. Motion by Alderman Martinson. Who was second? Alderman Elmore, second. Discussion. Yes, sir.
Wanted to ask, Your Honor, this agreement between us and the county, 50/50, have we approached any of our neighboring cities and police departments? I mean, if we could get more involved?
I think county's having that discussion, right?
Well, I think that, Kevin Saxel addressed that the other evening at the thing, he said that they had a meeting and there was no other community. They invited all of them and none other community showed any response to that. He had answered that question the other evening.
That was what I remembered. That's what I remembered of it, but I was gonna. So the county was taking the lead on it when they contacted us. The fact that we could split it 50/50 was the reason we're here tonight. So this motion would certainly the county has to take action, but it sounds like it's moving in the right direction from everything I hear today. So we have a motion, we have a second. Do we have any other discussion? Roll call.
Heisler.
Aye.
Kinsella.
Aye.
Meyer.
Aye.
Holt.
Aye.
Anderson.
Aye.
Rudowitz.
Aye.
Carpenter.
Aye.
Hart.
Aye.
Silsby. Hayden.
Aye.
Seibert.
Aye.
Martinson.
Aye.
Elmore.
Aye.
Schneider.
Aye.
Musgrove.
Aye.
Arlen.
Motion carries. Alderman Martinson.
Your Honor, I move to approve the budget amendment as recommended by the Finance Director. So moved.
Motion by Alderman Martinson, do I hear a second? Second by Alderman Heisler, do I hear discussion? Roll call.
Heisler.
Aye.
Kinsella.
Aye.
Meyer.
Aye.
Holt. Anderson.
Aye.
Rudowitz.
Aye.
Carpenter.
Aye.
Hart.
Aye.
Silsby.
Aye.
Hayden.
Aye.
Seibert. Martinson.
Aye.
Elmore.
Aye.
Schneider.
Aye.
Musgrove.
Aye.
Arlen.
Motion carries. Mrs. Fields?
If there's no objection, I'll read both of them.
These are from communications, ladies and gentlemen, please.
Communication from Belleville Chamber of Commerce requesting permission to hold the 30th annual chili cook-off on Friday, October 4th and Saturday, October 5th, 2013 on the public square. They are also asking permission to close the public square from 5 p.m. on Thursday, October 3rd, 2013, and to reopen the street at midnight on Saturday, October 5th, 2013. Communication from Belleville West High School requesting permission to hold the annual race for character on Saturday, March 24th, 2013 at 9 a.m. at the high school, and the following requests.
I told her I was not going to make her read the whole lengthy thing of barricades, etc. So, motion by Alderman Seibert, second by Alderman Meyer to approve those two requests. Any discussion? All in favor of approving those two communication requests signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We have no petitions this evening. We have a resolution. I ask for a motion to read by title only, Resolution 3126, 3127, and 3128. Motion by Alderman Silsby. Do I hear a second? Second by Alderman Martinson. Do I hear discussion? All in favor of reading those resolutions by title only signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
And I'll read as approved, if that's all right with everyone.
Anybody have objection to that? They're pretty much, okay, proceed.
Resolution number 3126, a resolution requesting permission from IDOT to close Route 159 for the St. Patrick's Day Parade on March 16, 2013, from 11 a.m. until 1 p.m. Resolution number 3127, a resolution requesting permission from IDOT to close Route 159 for the Shriners Circus Parade on May 31st, 2013, from 7:30 until 10:30 p.m. Resolution number 3128, a resolution amending the annual budget of the City of Belleville, Illinois for the fiscal year beginning on the first day of May 2012 and ending on the 30th day of April 2013.
Motion to approve resolution 3126, 3127, and 3128.
Motion by Alderman Silsby, do I hear a second?
Second.
Second by Alderman Seibert. Do I hear any discussion? Roll call.
Heisler.
Aye.
Kinsella.
Aye.
Meyer. Holt. Anderson.
Aye.
Rudowitz.
Aye.
Carpenter.
Aye.
Hart.
Aye.
Silsby. Hayden. Seibert.
Aye.
Martinson.
Aye.
Elmore.
Aye.
Schneider. Musgrove.
Aye.
Arlen.
Motion carries. Alderman Kinsella.
On behalf of the, there we go. On behalf of Health and Housing, I would move that we approve the revisions to the occupancy ordinance as presented.
Motion by Alderman Kinsella. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second by Alderman Martinson. Do I hear discussion?
I would like to make a comment,
Okay,
sir.
yes, sir, you can go first.
If you have a little handout that I add to the agenda, if you happen to have one of those, 15A and B says, our current ordinance 33-2-2 states, and this is what's already our ordinance. It shall be unlawful for any person to knowingly make a false statement on an application for occupancy permit for a dwelling unit as to the names, relationships, or number of occupants who will occupy said unit. Now, this implies that names, relationships, and number of occupants be listed on an occupancy permit application. This has been our practice for years. In reviewing the ordinance, City Attorney Flynn is recommending this be spelled out more clearly. So the new language only spells out that those things must happen. Part of the language added is, and shall identify the individuals authorized to reside in said dwelling unit. And there's another part that's added. Yes, that's. And there's another addition, a permit of occupancy shall not be required for visitors to a dwelling unit. It shall be the burden of the owner and tenant to establish that an individual is a visitor and not residing in said unit. And the other one is the only individuals authorized to reside in the dwelling unit shall be the individuals listed on the occupancy permit. Those are all things that we are currently doing. However, the language did not spell it out specifically. So he's cleaning up the language is what he's doing.
Bob Sable, Director of Housing. Pretty much Mr. Kinsella has clarified what you and I talked about.
Yes.
I mean, once again, ladies and gentlemen, and for the council, this ordinance has been in effect, I believe I'm correct, 1988. There's nothing, actually the ordinance is more relaxed tonight. Fair to say? And so we're not introducing a new ordinance, and we're not the only community that has this. And Mr. Flynn, you've been here for 30-some years with us. We've not had a legal problem with this that we've never been able to defend.
That's correct, and I think it's also important to note that everybody seems to be in agreement that inspections for safety are fine. What people have to understand, though, is that the trigger mechanism for making that inspection is the occupancy permit. If you do not have the requirement of an occupancy permit, you never then have the trigger mechanism to conduct the inspection.
That's exactly true. And also, I think it's true that the chief and I have talked, I'm not trying to put words, but Chief Clay, correct me if I'm wrong. As we continue to move forward with the crime-free, multi-crime-free housing potential ordinance, it would be very difficult to identify what triggers the background checks if we don't have a list of who's in the residence, and also background checks are for 18 and older. Is that correct? And Mr. Baus is one of the members. You know, that's one of the triggering points there. So many people have called and said they think that those background checks are good things for safety, to help work on deal with crime. The occupancy, we believe, is a part of how you make all those things fall into place. Alderman Hayden, you had your hand up.
These recommendations are pertaining to ordinance number 7667, correct?
Yes, sir.
I'll reserve my comments when we get to that then.
Well, we're first voting on the motion coming from the committee. Then we're going to vote on the ordinance. Okay? So if you don't want to comment now on the committee's comment about laying out the ordinance proposed?
That's fine.
Is there a separate recommendation, separate than the ordinance? Is there
No, but I was afraid if I didn't put it on this way, I'd be criticized, quite honestly, that we didn't first vote from committee. So I talked to Mr. Flynn, and we decided that we would take the recommendation from committee, and even though this has been talked about, and we've been back and forth, and we tabled it, and we've been back here for probably 6 weeks now, we felt that we would, just to make sure, in case there was some other something that came here, that we would first vote on the committee's recommendation, and then we are prepared tonight, right after this, to bring forward the ordinance, which is exactly the same thing. Okay?
Your Honor, you have stated previously that these amendments in this ordinance basically places less restrictions. Can you clarify your thoughts and how that is going to work?
Mr. Sable, you want to help me here, so I don't want to put words in the committee's mouth, but isn't it true that, we took out the language? Okay, tell us, in your words, Bob, how he's asking how this makes it simpler. We relaxed a couple of requirements, correct?
Well, the section as far as the
Can you step to the mic there requesting?
Thank you.
Thank you, Bob.
As was stated earlier, everything that has been amended into the property maintenance code ordinance that is being submitted this evening is something we're already do in the housing department. So it just more or less supports the process and procedure that we have been following in the past. Okay? And the other section, as far as what was added, a permit of occupancy shall not be required for visitors to a dwelling unit. I know that one was a big discussion as far as the way to determine whether you're a resident or a visitor to the property. So in those situations there, it has become a little bit more pointed out to, it's spelled out to us in the housing department.
Under Your Honor, I guess we'll redirect, if you will, to Mr. Sable. The occupancy ordinance has been in effect since '88. Now, we had in previously, which is now gone, the portion that stated you had 1 year if you had adopted or a birth of a child to this.
No, originally it was you needed to do it immediately, right, Bob?
That is correct.
And what we proposed was to give people up to a year, and that created all the hoopla here a couple meetings back. So we finally, after we reviewed it, Mr. Flynn and I and Chairman Kinsella and the police department and Mr. Sable, we sat down, a group of us, and said, look, we hear them. If that's the big sticking point, we just simply took out the language about the birth of a child or adoption of a child. Visitors, we also just didn't try to define that anymore. If they get to the point where there's a complaint, and as the chief said, they don't respond unless there's a complaint. And we don't go in, break in anybody's, or force our way in anybody's home. That's not the case. Now, if there's criminal activity, they're going to get a search warrant. But when we get reports of overcrowdedness, and the chief came to my office and proved that in a 2-year period, 2 year and a couple weeks, there was 1,103 reports of occupancy concerns, calls that came to the police department. So, and that is not mixed with any other type of call. That's right, Chief? That was just occupancy only complaints. So the question was raised, well, I think it comes always, there's always something else. This is just the documentation they have on occupancy. And many of you aldermen have passed on complaints to the housing department about occupancy because people have asked you. So we did, for the sake of not trying, and it's hard to define some of those things about visitors and about the new barn and about adoption, and if somebody's family has a member killed and you take in their kids. We just felt that it was easier to not try to get hung up on those circumstances, but keeping the occupancy permit intact, we believe is appropriate, and this administration believes it's appropriate. And when you talk about dealing with overcrowdedness, the calls that many of you and many of the times I get, where people call and say, you know, I'm going to have to move. This house next door to me is supposed to have 4 people, and suddenly there's 14. And there's cars everywhere, there's trash everywhere, it's just unbelievably overcrowded and it's out of control. I believe, and many of us believe, that the neighbors who are abiding by the rules and taking care of their property and not trying to put 4 times as many people in a dwelling that it's designed for, have rights too.
I agree, but I'm still want to get back to, we took the 1-year clause out, correct, Mr. Sable, now?
With the birth of the child.
With the birth of the child, but now you said, Mayor, that this initially went immediately, so.
We added the 1 year when we brought the provision forward to make some adjustments. And that's when it got to be that there was some sticking points.
Right.
So when we re-met, we chose to just propose it, as you see now, as taking it out.
Okay, but the question is, house, 123 Main Street, and you did an inspection on it when they moved in, and I'm all for the health and safety standards, make sure the electrical box is working, the plumbing is suffice, etc. But now, when you give them that permit, Mr. Sable, and you state based on the square footage, that this house can only have 4 people. If this blue thing is passed tonight, the question I'm asking is if those people have a child within the next 6 months, which puts them at 5, what happens under our current law?
There is going to be a means of appeal that's already in the property maintenance code that is going to be instituted, whereas the mayor is going to appoint a board where, in that situation,
I will recommend
if it exceeds the limit, then they can appeal and they can waive that
Now,
portion.
let's be totally honest. If somebody has a child and they don't know or they never call and there's never a problem and nobody's having any heartburn, we may never know and there may never be a call or an inquiry. But all of a sudden, if there's 5 or 6 more people in that house and it becomes issues, then they're going to have to, make their inquiry. We are going to put into effect the appeals process, which we have not had before. And if that clarifies it, we can do that. I'm going to recommend some, as spelled out in the Boca Code, there's some examples of who should be on that appeals board. I think it's a board of 3, right, Bob? There's people who are familiar with the housing and land, almost people who are in the business, and we're going to recommend a couple names for this council to consider. And we're going to set up the process and have it laid out.
Wouldn't it be then prudent, Your Honor, to, before we adopt further amendments, to have such a board in place with it?
We have an ordinance. This ordinance is right now in place. And it's actually more stringent than what we got here tonight. I believe that's a correct statement.
Right.
So what we're doing tonight is saying, we're asking that we relax the few things we've explained. The vote is not to get rid of the ordinance tonight. The vote tonight is about the amendments, right, Mr. Flynn? And then, once tonight is passed, we will immediately task Health and Housing for their next meeting to help put together the guidelines and give me, we'll work on that immediately to come back with the guidelines for the appeals process. That's my intent.
Now, another question or concern, Your Honor, and I understand you're saying that this is lessening the restrictions, but I'm still hung up, and trust me, I know what we're going at. You've dealt with the calls, I've dealt with calls. I do believe that we have certain laws on the books already to deal with some of these people that are violating the law, especially the stuff happening outside in the yard, the disturbances, etc. We already got laws to handle that. My concern is not necessarily with this amendment as much as I don't even know, as I've stated before, Your Honor, I'm not sure, and I've talked to some other citizens that they were concerned with the position that I was taking because of the disturbances that they've seen and reported. Yet when I explained to them, did you know the existing law would prohibit grandma from moving in, they were astounded by that based on the possibility that their house may not be big enough. Now, I understand the object of the appeals, but now we're creating another bureaucratic board that you know, I don't know how that's going to work. It could get very subjective. You know, which people out here get the waiver, which people out here don't get that waiver, and what criteria are we going to base it on? In the meantime, let's be honest, we're exposing tonight to the people of this city, and many may not know, that we have people right now that are in violation of the occupancy law, and while we're trying to do a good thing, which I support, while we're trying to do a good thing, we're also taking good and decent people and basically telling them that they're in violation of the law, and we've got conflicting interests here, Your Honor, that I really do believe if we're going to be wanting to work with the community, we need to straighten out, and that's part of why I'm having a problem endorsing this, but even more so is the statements made by some of the people during the public portion, which were good comments, but and you and yourself and Chief of Police, that this is going to be a tool, when I've had landlords that are on the task force that seem to be enforcement, this is going to be a tool for the crime-free housing, and that, am I understanding that correctly, correct? This is going to be...
It's going to work hand in hand.
It's going to work hand in hand with it. Okay. And I think if this ordinance did not exist, I think crime-free housing makes it much more difficult, maybe even impossible, to get accomplished what we want to accomplish with crime-free housing.
Shouldn't we, instead of piecemealing things together one by one, shouldn't we have maybe a red color, you know, or yellow or whatever of the crime-free housing ordinance? I've not even seen the draft, so I can look at that and
I think
see.
the draft's now available, isn't it, Bob?
I believe it's on the website.
It's on the website.
I'm having a hard time, Your Honor, supporting an ordinance
just went.
that's gonna work in cooperation with another ordinance that I've not seen. I just don't feel I have enough information to make a responsible decision.
I appreciate your concerns. Alderman Kinsella?
This ordinance stands individually from the crime-free housing. It's not the same ordinance. It's an existing ordinance that we're just updating the language. And crime-free housing is a different topic to be approached another day. This is something that we already have, and we're just polishing up the language. I don't see that it's tied in with crime-free as a necessity. I mean, if we didn't have this, we'd have to rewrite crime-free housing so it included all this, but that's, okay. This is a separate issue, actually.
Yes, sir.
Mayor, I have to disagree. I think we're not laxing the ordinance. I think we're strengthening it based on what I've researched and read. I think the problem I have with this is there's clearly doesn't state anything here about rental property. I think there's a big problem with rental property, enforcing something like this with rental property and enforcing the same law on homeowners. I don't think the city right now is being flexible with the landlords. I think the landlords have some determination of how many tenants they want on their property. As far as comments from the audience with the Fourth Amendment and the Constitution, I am a little concerned that this is basically, a local way of infringing on constitutional rights, especially for homeowners. And this is just a local way of that's infringement. I mean, in the state senate, they're trying to ban semi-automatics a few months ago, and that's Second Amendment in the state that's being. So I mean, this is I definitely have mixed feelings about this, but I think this is in the best interest of the city too, to try to limit overcrowding. That's all, Mayor.
Thank you. Anyone else before we move? Yes, ma'am. Could you use the microphone so they catch you on the tape?
As a homeowner, not only me or any other homeowner, we make our mortgage payments, we pay our taxes on the property. There should be no one to come in and tell me or any other homeowner how many times I can have a person come stay. If they come stay 6 months, I'm going to have to put them on my act. Then you got to take them off. And if they want to stay in another one, come. It's my home and everybody else's home. We should not be told who can be in there and who can't. Whatever happened to this being America for the freedom we have? This is not what the freedom is. This is the city telling us who we have to call and tell that someone's there and who isn't. That is not being a homeowner. A homeowner is you do with your home as long as you're not breaking a law. We're making a law here that you have to call and tell them that another person has been living there. Back in the Depression, when people couldn't afford a home, we didn't have as many homeless people as we do now. Families sometimes had to live together. We got homeless people now, we have no homeless shelter for them. You're going to be putting more people out if an older relative has to come and live. And that's why these younger people are buying these bigger homes, they can't afford the payments, and then they get foreclosed on. They should start out small. I just don't think we should be telling.
I want to clarify one thing, okay, if you're done.
Well, it's just that we should not be telling people that they have to call the city. I don't care if it's grandma or the little green purple Martian. No one should be told they have to call the city and tell them someone else has come to live in their home. And Mr. Baus called me and said I did not understand. I'm not, because he's the one that told me that this pertains, and if it doesn't pass, it will not, crime-free housing won't pass. And I asked,
I believe it.
I asked the last meeting for a copy of the crime-free housing. It's already on the website. I didn't have anything in my mailbox today.
You know what, I'll make sure you get one tomorrow. It just went up. We just got it. The city attorney just brought back his final comments. But they are, and I apologize, I guess I should have brought them here tonight to hand everybody. But we'll have it available, if you want, I'll make sure we email it, remind Aaron in the morning and staff meeting. We'll email it to all of you, we'll have copies here for review, and that public meeting, I think Mr. Kinsella you're having a committee meeting, a public meeting end of the month?
Yes, on the 27th, Wednesday, the 27th.
Okay, Wednesday the 27th, and I urge all of you to get online or pick one up or call us and we'll email it to you or have copies. City clerk will have some copies at her desk tomorrow on the counter. We'll make that work. We're not, we'll take as much time. But let me go back to one thing that was said. Mr. Carpenter made the comment, this was made last week or 2 weeks ago, or was the committee meeting. City attorney and I have spoken. We can't have occupancy for rental property, as some people have asked, and not for everyone. Now that will be unconstitutional. We will be challenged, and we will lose that battle. It has to be across the board. And it goes back to what was said a little while ago. It all started out, it's based on safety. And if we don't know, it won't trigger, because quite honestly, if it's just numbers, there's great landlords. We got many of them here tonight. I recognize them. They cooperate, they behave, they're honest. We have some, if we just have numbers, you'll never know when they turn it over, because they're going to say, well, I still only have 5 people in there. And it'll never trigger the safety inspection. And that home could go for years. And I can remember on several occasions, Alderman Schneider, where you called me and you were livid about safety inspections on a couple of rental units and why we couldn't do more. If we remove this, we'll have less and less and less safety inspections, and we'll have more and more dangerous situations appear. Now, I can't sit here and tell you this is a #1 crime-fighting tool, but when I hear some of you speak as often as you do about crime, I can tell you, and I'm not naming names, and I've not said this to the chief, but since the committee meeting here 10 days ago or whatever it was, I can tell you that I have been stopped by probably at least a dozen officers who come up to me unsolicited and said, Mayor, whatever you do, don't give up the occupancy permit. It would be a mistake. I'm speaking for myself and those 10 or 12 who stopped me. So I think, we're going to put this to a vote tonight, and the vote is not to get rid of what we have, it's just to make these amendments and these adjustments tonight. More conversation can come in the future. If somebody's got a better idea down the road, we'll listen. Mr. Kinsella?
I'd like to clarify about our meeting on the 27th. It's an actual task force meeting, and it's a working meeting. So comments will be kept to a minimum. We will have a public hearing after we come up with what we figure.
So you're going to have what you think is possibly your final review of the task force, then we'll go to a public hearing?
Well, we want to keep our minds open when it goes to the public hearing as to whether we're going to need changes.
Good point, I understand.
We would like to get it to the point that the task force has made consensus and is ready to present it to the public. We would recommend it be put on the website, et cetera. But this meeting coming up the 27th is to receive input from your office and the attorney's office and the chief's office, so that we can polish up this project. And then we will have a public hearing in addition to that night.
Now that's all about crime-free multi-housing. Okay, we have a motion right now on the floor. Okay, 1 second, I'm just repeating. Who made the motion originally? Mr. Kinsella, who made the second? Martinson. Okay, Alderman, hold on, recognize your questions.
Okay, I appreciate Mr. Flynn's statement that it takes the occupancy permit to trigger the inspection for safety. And I appreciate what you said, that if we don't have a name on there, that if it was just a number, that it could continuously be abused. I think a reasonable compromise situation then was to list the head of the household. If you want a number after that, but we have to keep in mind, the square footage is a recommendation. It is not a law.
And I think the report of the Board of Appeals will certainly keep that as they look at this. We're not out, but Alderman Holt, you know for a fact that you've gotten some calls too. There are an awful lot of good people. You talk about people wanting to leave Belleville, and I heard a couple of you bring this up. If we don't stand up for the good citizens who have invested their life savings in their homes, and they end up having a situation next to them, like many of them have called us, and it becomes a very dreaded nightmare with extreme overcrowdedness, extreme unhealthy conditions in some cases, extreme traffic from cars, extreme number of people that are milling around everybody else's property. That is what ruins the quality of life in neighborhoods. And we've heard about that, and we've experienced it, and this ordinance helps to keep that checks and balances. You know, when everybody uses good judgment, we don't have problems. And a lot of neighborhoods have never had these problems.
But it's subjective. My sister has 4 children. At one time, they were all teenagers. If I come to visit, my car would be there. My mom would come from across town, her car would be there. My cousin would come and visit. For some people, that they might consider that a bad neighbor. And yet, you know, her trash was picked up, her kids weren't.
If I may add, this ordinance has absolutely nothing to do with the square footage of a home or a rental unit. The discussion you're talking about is contained in the property maintenance code itself. This ordinance is before you this evening. It has nothing to do with square footage.
Okay, I do have some questions then. I am very concerned about the vagueness of establishing a difference between someone who is living there and someone who is visiting. I think 2 families up top of my head where the grandkids went to live with the grandparents to go to college. That's a 4 or 5 year commitment, probably went there in the summertime. But who gets to decide then whether they're a visitor or whether they're a resident? This does not give any time frame, it gives no
Mrs. Holt, as we said at the committee meeting a week or 2 ago, I honestly don't believe there's any way we can craft this ordinance to make it a perfect ordinance that everybody's going to be happy. I have to say that we are going to, I'm very serious about putting this appeals process. I think if there's no problems, there's going to be some situations that people are going to know they're supposed to report the birth of a child, or nobody's going to, it's going to be looked over. But it's when we start to have the problems that you got to have this ordinance in place. And we're not, believe me, staff's got enough to do. We're not going around up and down the streets trying to create more work. It is a tool that helps us keep quality in neighborhoods and quality of life in neighborhoods when we need it. And it's a work in progress. We might think down the road of some ways to define this a little better. And we might all agree and say, man, why didn't we think of that in all that huff? I'm open for that. But tonight's vote is coming to a vote here to understand we have the ordinance. And whether you believe me or agree or disagree, I truly believe actually we've made it a little bit more reasonable or a little bit less difficult. And we are committed to bringing this appeals process forward so that it's publicly known and explained, and it'll be an opportunity for people to seek if they have a situation that they're in question of. So that's pretty much, you know, Alderman Elmore, you're next.
I'm not I'm not even close to finished. You interrupted me multiple times. You mentioned there were approximately 1,100 calls in 2 years about occupancy.
That's the chief's numbers.
Okay. Mr. Sago, can you tell me approximately how many occupancy tickets are issued annually?
I do have those figures, but I don't know if I have them with me.
Well, ballpark.
I'd say probably around 300 a year.
Okay, 300 tickets a year. To how many separate
Tickets.
addresses?
You're asking tickets or occupancy permits issued?
No, I'm not asking about, I'm asking about how many tickets over occupancy issues have been issued.
A year?
A year.
I don't know either. I mean,
He said about 300.
Well, that's the
you think tickets is right, Bob?
No, sometimes they don't, a lot of it is written warnings.
Right. Yeah.
So I could not.
It could be, okay, so 300 could be including the warnings.
Action, a lot of it's verbal. They go by.
Okay, and in general, are you writing one ticket per property, or is it more standard to think there are multiple tickets issued at one time?
The information I have here doesn't tell me that. It just tells me the calls for service by each month from June 2010 through January of 2013. So I have those specifics. I'm able to gather that for you, and I can do so. But I don't have that now. But there's 3 different ways that they handle these according to the sergeant that's in code enforcement. They go by and they will try to do just a verbal talk with them, speak with them, and if they make contact with them, they send them to housing to get it rectified. If they can work it out. If not, on some other issues, if they come back a couple times or they get another calls, they'll issue even a written warning. They can do that as well to take care of the situation. So they have
and do we track them per property or per? I know we're getting better computer systems.
We will when we get our new computer system.
I know.
We'll be able to do a lot more things.
No, I don't know, because some of the multi-family units, there's no way for me to tell from here, and I'm not going to try to venture a guess. I would have to go back and pull those numbers and give them to you correctly. But what I have here now is just the calls. Sometimes we have 13, sometimes we have 65 in a month. I mean, these are constituents that call about this, and these calls that I told the mayor, these are not related to some other call for service, such as a loud noise complaint or somebody is fighting. This is strictly that they call and say that there are people living in this place, there's too many living in this unit, we need cops come over here for that. These are the calls that I collected, and nothing to do with the other calls. So I can go back and I'll be able to.
That's what I'm asking you.
And give you that information.
Okay, and of them, so did you answer me, are there generally if a ticket is written, is generally one ticket sufficient to cover whatever it is they're there for?
If the ticket
If they're called just on occupancy issues, does one ticket cover it?
Well, it depends on what they find.
Okay.
If they go into the place and they find, because I don't know, Bob, you correct me if I'm wrong, I'm not an expert on housing, but they can write one to the owner or the person that's renting the place for allowing people to stay there. They can also write one to the individuals themselves if they are if they are not minors or something of that nature. That's normally how they do that. So you can have 1 or 2 citations, or you can have 1 or 2 warnings per call, or you may have none. You just may have a conversation.
Okay. And if your officer writes a ticket about something like that, is it delivered then? Is this one of those things that we hear residents complaining about that is low on the priority list? So
well, the nature of occupancy violations, you would have to pretty much see that at the time, and they would issue a non-traffic, if I'm correct, they do that when they're on scene. The problem with occupancy, as far as an enforcement point of view, we have more ability to, we're not going to force our way, or can we force our way into your home? So when we touch you, we need to take care of whatever business we're going to do at that time. So they generally will write the citation there and issue it. Now, if somebody gets on these inspections and so forth, you guys, inspectors do that, that's a totally different thing. And then they will give it to the conservators of the peace, which are the police officers, who have the ability to go out and serve that citation. That may be further down the line.
Okay, so there are 2 different departments then that currently have the ability to write tickets about occupancy issues.
Right.
And is there coordination?
There's 2 housing officers assigned to our department that handle strictly the housing complaints.
That are police officers
Police
assigned
officers.
to housing?
That is
And
correct.
are they the only ones in your department who are writing the tickets, or can inspectors write tickets?
Inspectors will write like property maintenance issue tickets as
Okay.
far as what the violation is, and they in turn give them to the police officers who will serve. They do not serve the tickets, all they do
Okay,
is
and
write
that's
them
where
up.
sometimes a backlog.
There can be a backlog. There is a statute limitation for the city attorneys, but I think it's 18 months on ordinances, city ordinances, and so forth. Other statutes, felony statutes, it could be 3 years. So there's a lot of statute limitations out there and so forth. So you may get a ticket that was in fact wrote a couple months ago or whatever, and then the officer finally locates you or gets to that in their pile of things to do, and then they serve that summons.
And typically, how many tickets are running from your department to your department on a monthly basis?
On a monthly basis. I have the.
Or anyway, however you have
In
the.
2012, the statistics I have is citations issued were 259.
Okay.
259, you say?
259 were issued in 2012. And out of total, we had nuisance complaints, we had 2,497 complaints on the unit. And most of those were resolved by,
This is
So
not
10% of the calls you go on get a ticket written?
if you go by the statistics I gave you, that's approximately right. The other ones where the property owners were notified of a violation, they complied and corrected the situation, and a ticket was not issued. It's those that haven't complied after we give them.
What I tell staff all the time, and staff knows, we're looking for compliance. We're not looking to make people's life. We're looking to get the grass cut, the derelict cars moved. We're looking to get the unhealthy things made healthy. And if there's extreme overcrowdedness, we're looking to rectify that as best we can. We want to see the city stay clean and healthy. Clean and healthy will help us deal with crime. There's an image there, and it breeds, some of this stuff will breed more characters and more problems. So all we're out is for compliance. That's what the direction from the mayor's office to housing is all the time. We want to abate the nuisance, abate the mess, clean it up, and try to get these folks to be a part of the solution and not part of the problem.
Okay, so of approximately the 10% that is not resolved by talking to it and then tickets are issued, of that percent, what happens?
Then they go to court, and it's up to either they will plead guilty there in court, or we'll go to trial.
Okay. And is it a swift resolution? Is this something that?
We've had people in court for over a year sometimes.
With the options of the court, our judicial system, you're allowed and afforded many rights. And if you take certain continuances or you ask for certain things to be, you're going to be given. So yes, some of them can go on for an extended period of time. While that doesn't seem fair to the person living next door trying to resolve that mess, that's the other side of it. So, the laws are the same for everybody. They're going to have the same rights to go through the process and to, facing the judge and going through it. Mr. Flynn goes through it every month and more than once a month for us constantly for years.
So going back to, if I walk into your office and say, I just bought a house, this is who's going to live there. Are you taking the word of the person who is presenting the information? Do you cross-reference it against anything?
If it's rental property, they'll bring in a lease agreement with them, and normally they'll
Okay,
say.
but somebody's not having to come and say, here are the birth certificates of everybody who's living here.
No, we'll take the age and their date of birth at the door. Whatever they have a card to fill out, the next card they fill out with that information.
And how strictly is that safeguarded?
And it's in our file, it's a locked building, and access is just the employees of the housing department. Now, if there's a Florida request, which we have had for occupancy permits or less, we'll release that information as Florida.
Yeah, but even with that, you wouldn't give identifying information.
We would identify certain things.
Even more FOIA requests.
Okay. You redact.
You got to redact.
Okay, Mrs. Holmes, I take care of your question.
Yes, sir, thank you.
Alderman Elmore, still remember your question?
Just barely. I see it right here. We're talking about grandma coming over and all this. this, right there in black and white, or black and blue. A permit of occupancy shall not be required for visitors to the dwelling unit. And that's what we asked you to address.
And that's
You addressed it.
one of the changes we made, right, Bob?
But it's not,
So, okay, ladies and gentlemen, we have a motion, we have a second. I'm going to call for a roll call vote. And I vote is to approve the amendments, understanding that the ordinance is not being voted to be gotten rid of here tonight. It's simply to approve these amendments that were spelled out and explained numerous times. Roll call.
Heisler.
Aye.
Kinsella.
Aye.
Meyer.
Aye.
Holt. Anderson.
Aye.
Rudowitz.
Aye.
Carpenter.
Aye.
Hart.
Aye.
Sillsby.
Aye.
Hayden.
No.
Seibert.
Aye.
Martinson.
Aye.
Elmore.
Aye.
Schneider.
no,
Musgrove.
Aye.
Garland.
Aye.
Ayes have it. We have passed that. Now we go to the ordinance. I'd ask for a motion to read ordinance number 7667 by title only.
So moved.
Motion by Alderman Kinsella, second by Alderman Martinson. All in favor of reading ordinance number 7667 by title only, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Ordinance number 7667, an ordinance amending Chapter 33, Belleville Property Maintenance Code by amending portions of sections thereof.
I hear a motion. Motion to approve Alderman Sillsby, second by Alderman Martinson. Do I have any further discussion?
Are you planning, are we still planning to pass this crime-free housing ordinance before April 9th?
I'm not on a timeline. I don't know how many times I can tell you. It's going to go back to committee. We're going to take the input from the chief, Mr. Sable, Mr. Flynn, and myself. We're going to go back. They're going to have a meeting. Then we're going to set a public hearing. You have to have 15 days to announce a public hearing. Then I don't know that's necessarily, if there's no more major discussion, I think by that time it could go straight to council. But we're going to, I don't have a premeditated timeline. I've been encouraging crime-free housing for a year, maybe longer than that. Heck, Jenny Gain was still here when we were investigating it and researching it and getting into it very heavily over a year ago. So, but don't think, this is not a political endeavor of mine or my administration. I think it's important. I appreciate the committee members who have worked so diligently and put in many hours to give their time and thoughts. I'm extremely appreciative. But I don't have, I've not said that. I've never once come to this committee and said, I want this done by this date. That has never happened. So I have no dates.
Just want to state again, for the record, I totally understand the goals of what we're trying to do. I certainly want to do anything we can to end the disturbances that tainted our neighborhoods with overcrowding, and mainly overcrowding by people that actually have no blood relation and are crowding in these houses and causing disruptions in the neighborhood. That is a valid goal. I support that. The amendments and the ordinance as it's such is being stated it seems to me that it is being used more and more, as I hear the discussion, as a crime fighting tool than health and safety. And I just have major reservations with the fact that we're taking people, especially homeowners, and in essence, putting them into either grandfather clause. They may not have known it, and it's been that way, Mayor, for a while, but then maybe something good came out of the fact that we've exposed this to the public. But, that we have people that are living in non-compliance, and I respect you at your word that you're not necessarily going to go after these people, but once we've shined a light on this, and if somebody raises a concern that, hey, how many people are really allowed to live in this house? Oh, 4. Well, they got 5 just because they don't like each other. now we're gonna be forcing good and decent people to go before an appeals board to say that they're okay. And I just have a problem when we create an ordinance that starts not only infringing potential constitutional rights, but states that good and decent people may be in violation of law. And I respectfully ask my comments to be admitted to the record. Thank you.
Well, we will certainly will. At this time, we have a motion and a second, right, Mrs. Fields?
Yes.
I lost track. We have a motion and a second to approve ordinance number 7667. Roll call.
Heisler.
Aye.
Kinsella.
Aye.
Meyer.
Aye.
Holt.
No.
Anderson.
Aye.
Rudowitz.
Aye.
Carpenter. Hart.
Aye.
Silsby.
Aye.
Hayden. Seibert.
Aye.
Martinson.
Aye.
Elmore.
Aye.
Schneider.
No.
Musgrove.
Aye.
Arlen.
Once again, the ayes have it. Miscellaneous and new business. Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Flynn, we talked recently on the phone, but would you speak publicly about the Bethany Place and what the status is and the real estate?
The city's filed a lawsuit against Bethany Place for operating an illegal exchange program in violation of the city zoning code.
Did you receive an answer?
I have not.
Okay, thank you. I also have a question that you probably the best one to answer. Would you speak about the consent decree that we had from the president?
How many hours do you have?
I don't know.
Briefly, did we?
I've never read the consent decree, so like, go ahead. What, you have a question?
Did we meet the hiring quota?
As far as I'm aware, if we have, sure. Otherwise, we'd still be under the consent decree.
Okay, okay. I also, we talked about some specific legal cases, and I do have one I wanted to ask you with about in my ward. I'll tell you, I get that this is when you complain about animals, and I go about, we had to decide how many snakes you could have in your house. This was about birds. Are you familiar with the case?
There is a bird case.
Okay,
Yes.
all right, and this, what you have to know, those are some of them. People are frustrated because it seems a little bit like the foot dragging is on the city's issue.
No, I don't think that's true at all. You have to understand, the lady who's been charged with this is represented by an attorney who has filed a number of pleadings that has delayed the process, including seeking discovery that is not normal in an ordinance case that we have had to comply with. The court's granted them an opportunity to file interrogatories, which have to be answered, a request to produce, that we got to produce documentation, all of which has delayed this case, and much more than a case would normally be delayed.
Okay. Is that because all three are bundled together as one? Because I understand the attorney is only fighting you on one.
Well, they'd be tried together.
Okay, there's no way to try the other two separately, even though they're not arguing?
We could, but he would not want to do that.
Okay. Okay, thank you. I also wanted to ask Jamie, it was asked, I think recently, and she didn't answer, about the city credit card program for paying bills.
As I mentioned at a previous finance meeting, it was a little slow getting started, but it is up and running. We have probably between, I think, about 60 or 75 vendors that have signed up. It's nowhere near the projections of when they came in here, but we knew, and I said that at that meeting, there's no way we were going to meet that.
Well, the salesman always gives you the best
Right.
price.
For November, I think we only had about 6 vendors signed up when we did the claims in November, and we got a check for $750. So now that we're full-fledged running, the check should come in a lot more healthy than that. So, and as I mentioned, even though we're not going to meet the quotas that those salesmen provided, $10 is more than we had before for really no extra work on my office's end. So any amount is a big plus.
Thank you. Okay, and we talked about the sales tax certificates do not come in from individual businesses. Can we, as we are writing new agreements for tip money, add that as one?
You can't make them more stringent what the state is. The state is reviewing the enterprise zone right now, correct, Eric?
Yeah, the state is actually putting in a new procedure for the Department of Revenue.
And we're waiting to see it.
For It should be in place within the next year.
But we can't make things more restrictive than what the state programs have.
And that's actually the enterprise of that.
Nothing to do with TIF, that's enterprise.
Okay. But as far as our monitoring of how
There is no monitoring. That's what the state's looking at now. We have never, the program has changed over the years, but we are not responsible, nor do we have the staff, nor have we ever tried to monitor. Once they receive the certificate for sales tax abatement, it's virtually impossible for us to go out and monitor. The only one, and that's why they're talking about this now, the only one that can legitimately do this is the Department of Revenue.
I don't think we're understanding each other. I'm not talking about sales tax abatement. I'm talking about if we give TIF money to a business to help them get established, it is with the hopes that their sales tax then, we give them quotas they have to meet. You have to bring in, I think Kroger was $5 million worth. Can we not look at their monthly sales tax reports to find out if they have met what we required of them?
Jamie, unless there's a specific agreement, and that's usually been in some of these bigger boxes with the bonds, right? We don't see all the sales tax broke down specifically.
Right, I understood that. I'm saying, can we from this point forward, in order to ensure that they are meeting what we have required of them, ask that as part of the new contract?
We'll have to look at that, but as they do,
If someone does a property tax rebate, for example, they have to submit that documentation to us before we'll process.
Well, property tax rebate, they pay and then we reimburse it.
Right.
So that's a different thing.
Right.
The only one you're talking about, I mean, sales tax is only, I mean, the car dealerships are probably the biggest one, right?
I think what she's trying to say is, you know, if we have an agreement that we'll rebate so much of the taxes if they have $5 million in sales the first year, can they prove that via the Department of Revenue?
Exactly, that's what I'm
Okay.
asking.
I'm not a lawyer, but they, I believe, can sign off on the form with the Department of Revenue for them to report to us. I don't know
Okay.
if we can make that a requirement of our agreement. I don't
Okay.
know.
Okay, thank you. That's what I was asking.
Motor fuel claims in the amount of $36,439.73. What's your pleasure? Motion by Alderman Seibert, second by Alderman Martinson. Do I hear any discussion on motor fuel claims? Roll call.
Heisler.
Aye.
Kinsella.
Aye.
Meyer.
Aye.
Holt.
Aye.
Anderson.
Aye.
Rudowitz.
Aye.
Carpenter.
Aye.
Hart.
Aye.
Sillsby. Hayes. Seibert.
Aye.
Martinson.
Aye.
Elmore.
Aye.
Schneider.
Aye.
Musgrove.
Aye.
Arlen.
Motion carries. This time I want to answer. Did they all get this letter, Eric? Do we have copies or not? Let's pass these out for me. At the finance meeting, Alderman Hayden, we both got a little upset. I got upset because I thought it was wrong to start diving into a couple of our car dealerships when a personal phone call or sitting down in my office talking to them would have been nice. You talked about TIF 16 being a regressive TIF. Well, I couldn't answer you that night because I'd never heard of a regressive TIF. And the next day I talked to Mr. Flynn and I talked to Mr. Narber, and there's no such language in the statute. There's nothing such as a regressive TIF. That language, I guess you made it up.
I explained to you what.
Okay, but you do not have a specific statute or a specific thing you were accusing me of not doing.
Your Honor, I was not accusing you of anything. I was asking you if you knew that one of the properties within TIF 16 was going backwards, and the term I used was regressive, that it's going backwards because
Eric,
the object of TIF is to make it go forward. That was the question.
Well, let me let Eric take us through this sheet that you just got. Eric, take us through. Wagner bought the property in 2007, I guess it was, right?
2006, it wasn't parcels, so parcels created.
So it was field, and it was in the county.
Right.
We didn't have it, we got no tax money on it. 2007 and 8 it's first started. Eric, you want to walk us through this real quick?
Yeah, I broke this down year to year. The TIF 16 was created in 2006, so 2007 was the first year that we've been on the tax roll. So what I've done is show the cities, the EAV, the equalized assessed valuation for the city and the county, and the TIF 16, and then the Wagner property specifically. In 2007-8, the EAV of the city went up 7.36%, and the county went up 5.93%. TIF 16, it was 1,538%, and Wagner property was 37.38%. And then, excuse me, 08 to 09, it went up in the city 0.53%, the county 0.008. TIF 16 went up 2.04%, and then Wagner property went up 2.29%. 2009 to 10, this is after the market crashed in the housing market, and all the everything went downhill. So the EAV of the overall city went down 2.22%, the county 2.33%. TIF 16 was almost 18%, but two things factored in there in addition to the housing crash was that, as it was actually brought up this evening, that Wagner's mortgage company required them to reappraise the property, and it appraised at a lower value because the franchises were not there.
They had officially been put on notice that the franchises were being taken.
That, in addition, the city purchased the old Anglers property, which is over 40 acres, which took that off the tax list as well. So that accounts for that larger number. And then the Wagner property, so that was the reappraisal, so that it was a decline in that. And then in 2010-11, the EAV of the city went down 2.89%, the county 2.65%, and then TIF 16 is 1.68, so it was actually came down at a lower rate than the city or the county. And the Wagner property was just about that. So, I mean, these are based on the county records. So, I mean, this, a TIF is considered successful if the value of the property is significantly higher than it was when the TIF was created. And so, as I noted at the bottom, the EAV of TIF 16 since that first year is 1,248% higher than it was when it was created.
So we do not have a regressive TIF by your definition.
No, that's
We
not
have
what
a-
I said, sir.
Huh?
That's not what I said, sir. I said, are you aware that one
I was aware.
property?
I was aware, but once again, I thought Alderman Hayden, and my aggravation the other night was...
You got aggravated at the question, Mayor, and you weren't listening to what I was trying to ask you.
But Mr. Hayden, I would have explained to you that Mr. Wagner had to go back because of Regions Bank and go to the county to reassess, to reevaluate his taxes. He was made to do that. But we can talk about some of those things without making a public spectacle. I talked to Rusty Wagner this week, and this has all been very difficult on them. We talked to Jamie Offenberg this week, and he's going to come in. We worked with Jamie Offenberg, as it was basically alluded to the fact that I wasn't, my administration was asleep at the switch and not following that development agreement. Jamie Offenberg started in the last week to 10 days, $300,000 of improvements to his showroom. Yes, he admitted to me on the phone, we had a nice conversation this week, that he was very appreciative that the city council worked with him when the auto industry hit an all-time low in 37 years of his experience in 2009 and 10. And as of, he's going to his accountant, he'll be back from Detroit the next day or so. He will meet with me, which is the right way to do it. But he told me tonight, I had his permission to tell you, that his car dealership is back up and functioning with double the jobs we originally agreed to, and he brought in over $40 million worth of sales this past year. That equates to $400,000 in sales tax. Now, I understand it was a tough time. That's why I came to the city council executive session to explain that a couple years ago and asked that we be patient with these car dealers and not run them out of town. And right now, Mr. Offenberg said he's very proud of the way we worked with him, and his dealership is back up producing, and he's very proud of the numbers. But coming here and making an inquiry in front of everybody without having the decency to talk to these businesses on a professional, personal basis, to me, is dead wrong. Leadership, hold it, I have the floor. Leadership and responsibility of the mayor's office is about building relationships. And you don't build relationships with businesses in this town by throwing them to the wolves in front of the press and the whole public and to open discussion when you don't have the courtesy to have a discussion with them. That's what got me so aggravated.
Well, you know, Mayor, when you take public money, you already expose yourself to the public. It's the public's money. And if those businesses were offended, but their name being raised, then maybe they shouldn't think about taking public money. The answers that the people were seeking, and you forgot, Your Honor, that the whole focus of this discussion was based on trying to find out where the city stands with the agreements with these various entities. And the oversight being done, which is basically
I will have a proposal.
You've given me the floor. Let me finish here. You've given me the floor. No, isn't that fair? I listened to you. The fact of the matter is, these things are in the public domain. So if they're out there, they should be in a progressive city, in a transparent city, in an open city, Mayor. Those things should be on the city website already, where people can go and look and see where their money is that they've given. And you know, I respect your concerns to deal with the businesses, but the businesses also have to respect the rights of the citizens that are providing the money for them in these agreements, which is not happening. And in relation to the evidence that you've given today, I appreciate you giving me the answer. Wagner property was reappraised by mortgage company mandate due to loss of Buick, GMC, and Pontiac franchise. EVA on property was lowered by 38.54% due to reappraisal, okay? So was that done by the Board of Review or the Assessor's Office?
All I know is St. Clair County. I honestly can't sit here and tell
Okay,
you who actually.
it's irrelevant, Mayor. I question that in itself of how that changes the value of the property. The value of the property is what it's supposed to be assessed on, not the cars that are coming in and being sold, because I'll tell you what, there's a lot of people out in this audience that have lost jobs and have lost income, and if they could use that as a means to get their property tax lowered, I think there'd be a big lineup at the county courthouse tomorrow.
Well, I think their point is if that property begins to sit empty and vacant, it has a whole different look than being a viable business. And I think that's the whole point.
Well, sir, that is not a basis for appraisal of value.
And you know what, I'm just telling you what the car dealership, for whatever reason, now maybe it was the mere fact that the housing market went down so terribly during those couple of years, but when Regions Bank made them get a reappraisal, and it came in that way, and then they went to the county because they insisted they go to the county, we had nothing to do, and I didn't even know it until after the fact that he was going through this. It was already done before he uttered to us, by the way, that probably didn't come out until we were doing some of that other stuff, trying to save it with the ICRAN, etc. So, I mean, it was a situation where we didn't reassess it, but it was. I don't pretend to understand the criteria for all that. I'm giving you the facts. You basically said we were asleep at the switch, and that the tip was regressive, and the tip is not regressive. And I, at the time, I was not going to have any more discussion with you because I felt we inappropriately were exposing a 100-year business without having the courtesy to at least have him present to defend himself for some discussion before we raked him over the coals. And that's my opinion. We need to go. Yes, ma'am.
I have a question for new business.
Yes, ma'am.
This is February, the fiscal year ends in April with an election. Will you be making new committee assignments? Will you wait until after the election?
Committee assignments are never made until after an election, and really and truthfully, I look at committee assignments in my 8 years as being mayor, won't be looked at until just right before, a week before that first meeting of May. Okay? Okay. We do need to step into executive session for just a moment or two for a brief update on something. I would ask for a motion to go into executive session for the purpose of discussing property acquisition. We have a motion, I hear a second. Second, motion by Alderman Meyer, second by Alderman Martin. Go ahead. We're down to the portion of the meeting that says adjournment. I have nothing else. I have a motion to adjourn. Motion by Alderman Meyer, second by Alderman Anderson. All in favor of adjournment signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Well,